Okay, this time we're going to look at two features. We're going to look at drawing shapes to exactly the right size that we want them to be. Then when we've done that, we're going to add in some lines at set distances along that shape. Now this feature is really important if you are drawing a shape to the exact dimensions that you need it to be. Let's say an engineering drawing or an orthographic projection. Now the buttons that we're going to use on this activity, if you have a look at the Draw Edit toolbar, we're going to use the simple shape again. We're going to use construction points. And then if you go over to the Drawing Aids toolbar, we're going to use Grid Lock, Step Lock and Attach. Previously, when we've drawn a shape, we haven't really been concerned with what size that shape's been. Now you might notice that as you are drawing the shape, if you look at the bottom of the page, in this area here, it gives you the relative dimension. And as I'm drawing any shape, if I click, it will tell me in millimeters, because that's what the default is on 2D design, of the size of the shape. So this one is 70 by 35. Don't be confused that it says minus 35, it just means that it's 35 down or 35 across in one direction. Now because Step Lock's depressed on the Drawing Aids toolbar, that should go in millimeter increments. If it wasn't, then our shape would be points of a millimeter there. If we click on Grid Lock, you should notice that your cursor becomes very much more jerky, and as you are pulling it across, it will snap to those 10mm grid lines, and you should be able to draw a shape which is 40 by 30 or 40 by 40. Okay, so that's drawing shapes in exactly the right size that you want. Let's just get rid of those. Edit, select all, and cut those. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on Shapes. For this activity I want the Step Lock, and I want to draw a shape which is 150 by 100. It's worth noting here that if you can't be very accurate with your mouse, you can always use the arrow keys on your keyboard to help you with that. Once you're happy with that, click to set, and that is your shape. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to think about putting some construction points at set distances along this shape. Now our shape here is 150. Let's imagine we want a construction point 30 in from either side there. First thing I'm going to do is click and hold on my construction icon, and I'm going to go across to draw a construction point at a given distance. That's the third button in. When I let go, the default is 10. I want to change that to 30. Now if we want it on the top line, you have to hover over the top line, but it's worth saying that you have to go as close as you can towards the corner. And you should notice that when you do that, a little construction point appears at exactly 30mm along that line there. If I go to the other side there, that will be exactly the same, and I will have a construction point there. Now for the sake of argument, I'm just going to do exactly the same there, exactly the same there, and exactly the same there. So I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 construction points. This is particularly useful, as we've already said, if you're drawing a really accurate shape, particularly if you're not using the grid lock or you are using sizes which are not in line with your grid. Now if I click off construction points and onto my straight line, and then go across to my Drawing Aids toolbar, and this time click on Attach and click off Step Lock, what I can now do is draw a straight line. Now you'll notice that the pointer this time looks like a box, if you click so that your construction point is in there, it should allow you to snap to that construction point and draw those lines. Even if you're slightly off like so, it will snap to that construction point. And that's one way of drawing very accurate lines. Now, it's well worth noting that if you are removing any lines later, let's say for example you want to change the colour or the shape of these lines, it's always a good idea to draw points at intersections, and for that we need to go back to construction, click on the icon and hold, go across, draw a construction point at an intersection, and click there, and click there. And that will allow us, if we wanted to, for example, delete a line like so, change the colour of that line, go back onto the line, still with the touch on, we can change the colour of that line but still snap to the construction point, so we're not trying to guess where our line should be or if it's going to be accurate. This is particularly useful when you are using an output such as a laser cutter, because obviously some lines need to be one colour for engraving or creasing, and some lines want to be another colour for cutting. You can add lines through the middle, from the corners. You can add lines from point to point. And as long as you are snapping each time to that construction point, you can't go wrong.